Hi, this is Mr. Ward, and I'm going to walk through creating a magic trick that I haven't even created in my head. I don't know what it's going to be, and I want you to try to take heart. If you're having some trouble getting started with coming up with your magic tricks with algebra, I want you to just take heart that it can be done without knowing where you're going to go, because along the path, you're basically going to try to take an original guessed number and you're going to complicate it in various ways to um, help help your the person you're doing the trick with lose track of what you did, and then you're going to lead them through a series of math equations and calculations that they could do in their head or perhaps on a piece of paper to one of a couple of places, either a particular number that you've decided on or their original number or maybe zero. Okay, so, and I'm going to start off with, okay, pick a number. So I'm going to show you how to write this in here. So pick a number. Okay, notice that what I did was I clicked the plus button and I hit note. And when I did that, it opened that up. So I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to hit the plus button, hit note, and I say pick a number. Okay, my number is going to be, I don't know, so it's going to be X. X is an unknown. Now, at this point, I can do one of four operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. If I do division, I run a pretty good chance of putting them in fraction land, which, if they're really comfortable with fractions, is not necessarily a problem. But probably, if you want to generally use this trick, most people will have more likelihood of a calculation error with a fraction. So instead, I would recommend addition or subtraction or multiplication at this point. I am going to pick multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to hit the plus button, make a note. So the next thing is a note. I'm going to multiply by, okay, I'm going to multiply by a small number. I will multiply by 5. Okay, so that means what I've got is simply 5 times x. If you're wondering how to make that little multiplication dot, it's the asterisk. It's the little star above 8. So shift 8. However, Desmos will understand if you just say 5x. That is also a way of saying 5 times x. So we multiply by 5. I don't have to simplify this in any way right now. And I have to pause because my computer wants power. Okay, cool. So I now have power on my computer, and we've multiplied our number someone picked by 5. Okay, now we want to take it another direction. We want to take it addition or subtraction. Probably not division at this point, because really our only option would be to divide by 5, and they'd be like, you just said multiply by 5, divide by 5. That's doing nothing. So what we want to do is pick some number pick something to add. Doesn't really matter. Let's say we add, let's add 11. Okay. So now we've got 5x plus 11. And when we added 11, that meant that we definitely don't have a multiple of 5 anymore. So we're going to need to do some extra sneaky stuff. So I'm going to multiply again at this point. And the reason I'm going to multiply again is I'm going to pick something that'll allow me to turn this all into a multiple, make it an even number. I'm going to multiply by 2, I think. I might use 3, but for right now, I'm just going to use 2. So multiply by 2. And why I'm doing that? Well, one reason is to get everything to be even. Another is that then I'm going to have a composite number. Everything will be, the beginning is going to be multiple of 10. And then the plus 11 will turn into a 22. And then it'll be not too hard to turn that into a 20 or a 30. So now I've got 2 times 5x plus 11. I'm going to keep track of what I did by simplifying that. So 2 times 5x is 10x, and 2 times 11 is 22. All right, now I'm going to bring in some subtraction, and I'm going to subtract 2. Subtract 2. Okay, so now I've got this original fancy version. Okay, subtract 2. Okay, why did it go there? But there we go. So we'll subtract 2. But I'm also going to simplify that with this. I'm going to subtract 2 from that. And when I subtract 2 from that, I end up with plus 20. And you might notice that we now have a multiple of 10. Now I'm going to divide. Whatever they have is a multiple of 10. And I'm going to divide by 10. That'll get rid of this 10 in front of the x. So divide by 10. Okay, so that's going to be this whole thing divided up by 10. Notice I put a parenthesis there, so it'll make it divide the whole thing. I don't actually need the parentheses, but there we go. And now we will simplify that. I'm actually going to simplify using this version, of course. So I'm going to divide that by 10. When I divide that by 10, this just becomes a 1x. This just becomes a 2. And the denominator now is a 1. And I don't need it anymore. So that's just x plus 2. Now, at this point, I'm going to think about where do I want it to go? Do I want them to be back at their original number? Do I want them to end up at 2 or some other number? Do I want them to end up at 0? For right now, I'm just going to have this end up at 2. So now we will subtract your original number. Okay, and so that means this whole mess minus x. Okay, you notice it made a horizontal line that goes through y equals 2. Basically, everywhere on this, no matter what x value you picked, you end up with 2 because it doesn't matter what x value you picked. I'm going to simplify it using the simpler piece and say minus x. So x plus 2 minus x is just 2. And there you have it. I have just done a magic trick that leads specifically to 2. But what if you had wanted to end up at the original number? Well, in that case, what you would have done at this point, when you were at x plus 2, is you would have subtracted 2. So instead of subtracting the original number, instead, subtract 2. Okay, and then what you'll end up with is this. Instead of this thing, which is minus x, instead of minus x, it's minus 2. And when we do that, notice this red line is what we've gotten. Okay, right there. That is y equals x. So whatever x value you put in, the output of it is always going to be the same thing. So you'll end up back where you started. Okay, to simplify it using the other thing, we'll use the simple version of all of this and say this minus 2. So x plus 2 minus 2 is just x. Okay, and then if you wanted to end up at 0, instead, we would subtract the original number at this point. Okay, so or you could have, it doesn't matter which you do first. You could subtract 2 and the original number. You can subtract the original number and then 2. In a couple of steps. Don't do it all at once because then they'll be on to you. Okay, so we're going to take this, minus 2, but we're not doing the minus 2. We can do minus 2 and then minus x. Of course, when you do minus 2, then that was really just our original x plus 2. Okay, so that was just this, minus 2, which equals x. And then at this point, we've just got x minus x, which equals 0. And we are at 0. We've eliminated everything. All right. So I hope that that has given you a little more clarity about how I create these tricks. This is just one of a few videos that I will make on how to do it. And I hope that helped.